I'm Lou.
I'm Mary Beth. I'm Freda.
I'm Pat.
The sun and the wind. Once, the sun and the wind were arguing about who was stronger. The sun boasted that she was stronger because she could make water evaporate. The wind wasn't impressed at all and said that she could blow so hard that large trees would fall to the ground. The two of them argued like that, back and forth. Now it happened that a man walked by, and the sun and the wind agreed that whoever could make the man take off his coat would be the winner. So the wind went first. The wind blew and blew and blew. But as the man walked along with the wind blowing in his face, he just pulled his coat tighter and tighter around him. The more the wind blew, the more he held onto his coat. Finally, the wind gave up and admitted that she couldn't make the man remove his coat. Then it was the sun's turn, and she began to beam as bright and warm as she could. As the man walked along, the sun continued to shine, and the man became hotter and hotter. Finally, the man took off his coat, and the sun had beaten the wind. What we learn from this story is that if you want someone to cooperate with you, using force and making demands is sure to fail. But gentleness and friendliness is sure to succeed.
the mice and the weasels. Now the mice and the weasels were always at war with each other. And the weasels always won. Why, the weasels would hunt down the mice, catch them, and have them for a snack the next day. Well, after a while, the mice began to feel discouraged. So they had a meeting to talk about why they couldn't beat the weasels. After some discussion, they decided that the reason was that they didn't have any leaders. So the mice got together and picked a few leaders, and the rest of the mice became their soldiers. Well, of course, the leader mice became very taken with themselves, and they demanded that they have some way of showing off their new positions. So the soldier mice made huge helmets and decorated them with feathers and with straw. Well, this just made the leader mice more proud of themselves. And they started to give orders to the soldier mice to prepare them to battle the weasels. Finally, the mice told the weasels they were ready. And boy, were the weasels excited. They hadn't had a good snack in a long time. So all the mice and all the weasels lined up and they were ready. And when the battle started and the weasels came running toward the mice, all the mice got scared. And the soldier mice ran into their mouse holes as fast as they could. But when the leaders tried to get into the mouse holes, their fancy decorated helmets got stuck. They couldn't get in and the weasels caught them and had a great snack. What we learn from this story is that leaders should not be too proud or arrogant, because there are always unexpected problems, troubles, and other responsibilities of leadership.
the bees. One day, a bear was walking through the forest looking for berries or fruit, something sweet to eat. As he walked along, he noticed a hollow log, and the bear thought there might be a honeybee nest inside that log. So the bear went over to the log, but suddenly one of the scout bees spotted the bear and knew he was planning to take their honey. So the bee flew right at that bear and stung him right on the nose. Oh, well, the bear was furious and reached into the honeybee nest to get the honey. And then all the bees in the nest swarmed out and began to sting the bear all over. The bear put his tail between his legs and ran away. He ran to a pond and dove under the water to escape the bees. What we learn from this story is that sometimes it's better just to take a little hurt than to make things worse by becoming really angry. The fox and the crow. One bright, beautiful morning, the fox woke up and was hungry. So he sniffed about looking for something to eat. He spied a crow not too far away, sitting in a tree. As he looked at the crow more closely, he noticed that she had a piece of cheese in her beak. The fox was happy because now he didn't have to look all over for something to eat. He just had to figure out how to get the cheese from the crow. So the fox sauntered over to the crow and said, "Good morning, beautiful." The crow didn't answer, but just looked suspiciously at the fox and wondered what he was up to. The fox said, It's such a beautiful day. Why, your black, sleek feathers are beautiful. And your shape and form are beautiful. Your eyes are beautiful. Your beak is beautiful. You are completely beautiful. But I don't know if you are completely perfect or not because I haven't heard you sing yet. I'm sure that once I hear you sing, I'll declare you queen of all the birds. I'm sure of it, but I have to hear you sing first. Well, the crow was so proud and flattered that she looked down at the fox and began to sing. Naturally, when the crow opened her beak, the cheese fell to the ground. The fox picked up the cheese, thanked the dim-witted crow, and went on his way. What we learn from this story is that if you believe it, when people flatter you, you may let it go to your head, and then you'll have no one to blame but yourself.
The hare loved to boast about how fast he could run. Why, I can beat the deer. And I'm so fast that the hounds can never catch me. He was always bragging about his speed. All the other animals were really tired of listening to his constant boasting. Well, one day, while the hare was boasting about himself, the tortoise interrupted and said, "I can beat you." The hare couldn't believe it. "What? You beat me? Everyone knows that you're the slowest animal in all the world. You can't beat me." But the tortoise just nodded his head. "All right then," said the hare. "We'll have a race. When?" "Tomorrow," said the tortoise. "Fine, tomorrow it is. What time?" said the hare. "Tomorrow morning at 6. "All right, fine. Tomorrow at 6 we race," said the hare. Then the two of them discussed where they would race, and there happened to be a big hill nearby, and they decided that they would race around to the other side of the hill, and the finish line would be at the great oak tree. Then, as all the animals started to leave, the hare announced that he was having a big party tonight at his house. The party was to celebrate his victory tomorrow. The animals said that he shouldn't celebrate early, but should wait until he won to have his victory party. But the hare was so sure that he would win, he said he wanted to have the party tonight. Now, the animals really didn't like the hare, but he was famous for his big, terrific parties. There was always plenty to eat and drink, so all the animals went over to the hare's house for the party. All except the tortoise, who went home, went to bed early, and got a good night's sleep. Meanwhile, over at the hare's house, everyone was eating and drinking and having a good time. When it got to be about 1 o'clock in the morning, everyone decided to go home, and the hare finally went to bed. A few hours later, the sun rose, the hare got up and hurried to the starting line. The tortoise was already there when the hare arrived. The animals began to arrive one by one. While he waited, the hare began his warm-up exercises, stretching, running in place, and push-ups. All the while, the tortoise just watched. Although the animals were still a bit sleepy as they watched the hare go through his warm-ups, they were impressed. The animals picked the fox to start the race. So the fox got the tortoise and the hare on the starting line and reminded them of the race course. The hare, standing there ready in his racing start position, looked just like an Olympic runner in the starting blocks before a race. When the gun sounded to start the race, the hare took off and left the tortoise in a cloud of dust. The tortoise just plodded along, taking his time. The hare got so far out in front that when he looked back, he couldn't even see the tortoise. And so, because he was a little tired from all that partying he did last night, the hare decided to lay down and take a little nap. He figured that when the tortoise came along, he'd just get up and beat him to the finish line. So the hare laid down under a tree and went to sleep right away. Unfortunately for the hare, he fell into a deep, deep sleep. Quite a while later, the tortoise came plodding along and noticed the hare fast asleep. So the tortoise began to move as fast as his little legs would carry him all around the hill. A while later, a fly landed on the hare's nose, and the hare sneezed and woke up. He got up and looked around, but he couldn't see the tortoise. Because he didn't know how long he had been sleeping, he just figured that the tortoise was just very, very slow. Anyway, the hare took his time jogging down the hill. When he got close to the finish line at the great oak tree, all of the animals were standing around, yelling and cheering. The hare thought that they were cheering for him because he was going to win. But as he got closer, he stopped because he saw the tortoise sitting on the other side of the finish line. The tortoise had won. The hare was stunned and wondered how the tortoise had beat him. The tortoise just looked at him and said, "Starting and stopping, starting and stopping. That's no good. Slow but steady always wins."
A long time ago, there were 3 little pigs, 2 brothers, and a sister. The first pig was a little lazy. He didn't like to work. He just liked to play. The second pig took after the first little pig and didn't like to work either. But the third little pig was different. He was very serious and always worked hard. He liked to play, but not too much. One day, the 3 little pigs had all finished their schooling, and they went out into the world to seek their fortunes. But they each needed a house to live in. So the 3 little pigs thought and thought. Remember the first little pig who was lazy and liked to play a lot? Well, he decided to buy some straw or hay and build his house out of that. He did that because he could build it quickly, and he liked the pretty color. So he did. He bought the straw and built his house in half a day, and then went out to play. Now the second little pig bought some wooden sticks because she liked the color and the smell of fresh wood, and because she was a bit lazy. So she hurried and built her house and then went to play with the first little pig. And the 2 of them played and played. Now the third pig, the serious one, he thought carefully about all the details of his new house, how he should build it, how many rooms it should have, and where each room would be. He also thought about what he should use to build it. Hay was too cold, he thought, and sticks would leak in the rain. So he decided that he would use bricks, because then his house would be strong and would last a long time. So he began to build his house. It took all week. But at last it was done, and it was beautiful. Now the 3 little pigs each went into their own house. The first pig went into his house of straw. The second little pig went into her house of sticks, and the third little pig went into her house of bricks. One day, the first little pig was outside playing. He didn't even take time to clean his house or even cook for himself. He ordered carry-out food all the time. He was outside playing when, peeking through the trees near his house, was a big, bad wolf who wanted to catch that delicious-looking pig and eat him up. Pretty soon it began to get dark because the little pig had been playing all day long. So the little pig went in the house. The wolf